Welcome to the Sheridan Report on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The Sheridan Report is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. To find out more about MyBookie.ag and to get up to 100% cashback bonus on your first deposit up to $300, make sure you go to thegruelingtruth.com, click on the banner at the top of the page, or go directly to MyBookie.ag and put in the promo code TGT100. I am your co-host for the show, Mike Goodpastor. Right now, I'd like to welcome Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report. How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing great, and I'm looking forward to these basketball playoffs coming up, the next series of games, the finals, and starts tomorrow. We're going to have some good takes on this on tomorrow's show, so don't miss that one. But tonight we got baseball, and we got your hockey.
All right, so you want to start off with hockey?
Yeah, let's go with your hockey first.
All right, the Sharks beat the Blues 6-3 in Game 1 on, I think it was Friday night or Saturday night. My take on this is still the same. I like the Blues. I probably shouldn't, but I do. I don't think Jordan Bennington will have another performance like he did the other night. And it's been an up and down postseason for the face of the Blues, Vladimir Tarasenko, but he hit a new low in the Blues 6-3 opening loss. He had a -3 performance, and I think this is all going to come down to Tarasenko, who's 182 goals since the start of the 2014-15 season, only trail Alex Ovechkin and John Tavares, and I just don't think that he's going to play that badly again. And I think if he plays well, I think they've got a good chance to win the game. They're plus 115. And this is a close enough matchup. I'll just go for the 115 instead of betting plus 135 in San Jose. I think the Blues in a minor upset tonight.
Hey, Mike, good call right there. You talked about before the series had begun, this was last week on Thursday or Friday, whenever the series started. You liked both dogs with the value, but you were going to stay away from Game 1. And so, okay, both home favorites win. Save money there. Then you had a chance to go on the Hurricanes in Game 2, but you said, no, I don't even like them Game 2 now. I didn't like how that first game went, so you laid off, save money. Now you're pressing the button. You're pulling the trigger on the Blues. I really like that. I like that. You get plus 115. It gives me confidence to go with you tonight. And let's put them in there with two of our top baseball plays and make a parlay out of it.
Well, what are our baseball plays for today, Bobby?
Okay, our baseball plays, Mike, we've got, first want to mention, we're on a nice little run now with baseball. We've got 3 straight days of going 2-1 with our straight plays. And as the listeners know that have been following our show and following me, our straight plays are all underdogs. They're the underdog plays. They're the best value plays on the board. So to go 6-3 on your baseball when you're picking underdogs, that's probably like going, 8-2 really, because we're not going 6-3 on minus 110s all the way across. We're hitting 140s, 150s, 135s, and we got 2 more tonight that we really like. We got the Tigers as a top play. They're hosting the Astros. This is a brand new series starting tonight. Tigers hosting the Astros, and you got a great pitching matchup, the best the Tigers will have. This will be their best shot to win one in the series. They're throwing their ace, Boyd. We talked about him last week. Really good left-handed pitcher, one of the best in the American League. And he's going to be going against the Astros, and I think it's Peacock, if I'm right.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Peacock. So he's one of their mid-range guys, not one of their top couple. So this is a shot for the Tigers to take Game 1. So I like it. They're plus 143. This is a top play for me. And then the other play we like on the board tonight, the other straight play, there's only 2, is I like the A's tonight. They're going to Seattle. This is obviously a divisional matchup. They'll play each other 18 times, but this was the opening series of the season, the in Tokyo, if you remember, and the Mariners won both those games. But what the Mariners did was they threw their Japanese left-hander, Kikuchi, at the A's. The A's have seen him. They won both those games, and I think the Mariners did, that is, and I think the A's owe them back a little bit, Mike, and I think they're going to go down there tonight. They're throwing their ace Mike Fiers, who's off of a no-hitter. He just threw a no-hitter his last start, and he's going to be pitching at Seattle tonight. Let's see how many innings he can go tonight without giving up a hit. That'd be interesting. And plus 118, I think, is a good value. So I like the Tigers and the A's as the top two straight underdog plays on the board. In terms of our three-team parlay, our mix and match, we've got three that we like. These will be three favorites that you can put two of them with maybe the top play, or put one of them with the top play, or one or two with a game that you like. Or what we might do is we might do a top play, pick one of these, and then Mike's hockey, Blues, and come up with a three-teamer that way. So I call it mix and match. And those three are the Twins, the Indians, and the Diamondbacks. And the Twins we'll talk about real quick. They throw their ace, Jose Berrios. So we're picking aces on the staffs tonight. We've got Jose Berrios going. He would be a medium favorite at home over the Angels. The Twins have the best record in baseball. And they just split a series with Detroit, and they're staying home. The Angels go to Minnesota tonight, so that they travel a little bit. Cleveland, 152 over the White Sox. That's a road favorite in a divisional matchup with Shane Bieber, who's an unheralded, kind of really underrated pitcher. And it's easy to be because he's on a staff that has Bauer and Carrasco and Kluber. But Shane Bieber has got really good stuff. And finally, Robbie Ray, who's been piling up the strikeouts for the Diamondbacks. They're a pretty significant favorite over the Pirates. And this should tell you something. I've been on the Pirates quite a bit and just hit them twice over the weekend over the Cardinals. And so to pick against them tonight would mean that they're in a tough spot, and they are. They're facing a lefty, which I think is they're most vulnerable against left-handed pitchers. So Josh Bell, Moran, Reynolds all hit left-handed, Adam Frazier. So this would be a nice matchup for Ray. Look for him to get 10 or more strikeouts tonight in that game. So there you go, Mike. There's your baseball.
All right, Bobby. And so you know, plus 5,000 for a 4-game sweep.
All right. So the 4-game. Oh, plus 5,000 on tomorrow, Portland. Wow.
Yeah. $10 win you 500.
But we're going to talk about this a lot tomorrow. And you came on air on Surviving Advance and you beat me to the punch, and you went a step further than me. You got Portland not only winning this series.
I think they're going to win it in 2 games, Bobby.
Potentially looking at a sweep. Hey, you know what? That would be a shocker, but that could happen. You know, that's not out of the realm of possibility. Game 1 is most troubling to me. But after that, I think we've got ourselves a series. And could this be the series that Golden State doesn't win one on the road? Because if that happens and that streak of 21 straight series is broken, then Portland can definitely win this series. So that'll be something we can talk about tomorrow, Mike.
All right, Bobby, on this day.
On this day, you know, there's quite a few things on this day, and I'm going to mention them real quickly. We may not get over all these, but on this day, 1958, Stan Musial got his 3,000th hit. That's significant. 67, Mickey Mantle got his 500th home run. 1985, Carlton Fisk was the 5th to steal 100 bases as a catcher. And Reggie Jackson in 83 was the first major leaguer to strike out 2,000 times. Eddie Murray in 97 was the 6th player to play in 3,000 games. So we have some big names there. And there's one, Mike, that we picked, you and I, and it's 1993, and it's Kansas City Royal George Brett. This is the guy I want to talk about, Mike. He hit his 300th home run on this day, 1993, and what do you got for me on George Brett?
I think he was one of the 2 greatest third basemen that ever lived. The thing that was, he started out as a shortstop, had trouble going to his right. They converted him to third base. He had a brother, Ken, who actually as a 19-year-old pitched in the 1967 World Series. He had 2 other brothers that played in the minor leagues. The story that I remember about him was 1973. He got promoted to the majors in like August, played in 13 games and batted 125 at the age of 20. He won the starting third base job in 1974, but struggled at the plate until he asked help from Charlie Lau, the Royals' batting coach. They spent the All-Star break working together at Lau's house, and Lau basically taught Brett how to hit. And from then on, 1975, he batted 300. And he went down to the last game of the season, and all four contenders for the batting title that year were on the field at the same time because the Royals had George Brett, Hal McRae. The Twins had Rod Carew and the late Lyman Ballstock. And in dramatic fashion, Brett went 2 for 4 in the final game of the season against the Twins. He beat out all three rivals, but it came down to his final at bat, where he hit a ball, a blooper, into I think it was left field against the Twins, and it bounced on the Astro Stadium turf at Royal Stadium and went over the left fielder's head all the way to the wall. Brett circled the bases for an inside the park home run. McRae batted right after him. If he'd got a hit, McRae would have won, but he grounded out, and Brett won his first batting title. The other interesting thing I found out about him was from May 8th to May 13th of 1976, Brett had 3 or more hits in 6 consecutive games, which was a major league record. 1976, of course, you had the great classic ALCS between the Yankees and the Royals. And everybody remembers the Chris Chambliss shot that wins the game in the bottom of the ninth at Yankee Stadium. But people don't forget, it was 6-3 Yankees into the 8th, and Brett hit a 3-run homer to tie the game. And basically he became a power hitter after that, clubbing 22 to 30 home runs almost every year. In 78, he batted .294. And the thing about the Yankees-Royals, it was a huge rivalry because they played the ALCS 76, 77, 78, and then they played again in 80. The Royals only won in 80. 76, they lost in 5. 77, they lost in 5 games again. And the thing that stood out to me about that series was they lost Game 5 in Kansas City. And in that Game 5, following an RBI triple, Brett got into a fistfight with Greg Nettles at third base, which ignited a bench-clearing brawl. But the amazing thing about that is, back then, nobody even got tossed from the game. In 78, they lost in 4 games, but he did in Game 3. He hit 3 home runs off a Catfish Hunter, becoming only the second player to hit 3 home runs in an LLCS game. And I think the only other person to do that was, I think it was Bob Robertson from the Pirates. He did it against the Giants in 1971. He had a great 79 season. But the precursor for all this was 1980. Nobody had really come close to batting .400 since Ted Williams 39 years before in 1941. And that year, Brett won the AL MVP. He batted .390, which is a modern record. And I mean, he was batting above .500 as late as September the 19th. And I remember watching this nightly or listening just to try to find the games on the radio as he tried to hit .400. And I think the only person that has come closer to .400 since then was Tony Gwynn in 1994, who hit .394. But, of course, he only played 110 games and had 419 bats because of a strike-shortened season, which to me was the biggest loss of the 94 season because Tony Gwynn had a shot to bat .400 and he had a legitimate chance. 1980, they go to the ALCS, and they win it finally. And Brett was a huge force in that. They swept in 3 games, the New York Yankees. And in Game 3 of that playoffs, Brett hit a ball well into the third deck of Yankee Stadium off of Goose Gossage. And Gossage, the pitch was like 97 miles an hour. And he hits it up into the third deck. And he goes on in the 1980 World Series to bat .375, but the Royals lost in 6 games to the Philadelphia Phillies. And, if you remember, I think that's when he had the hemorrhoid problem. 83 with the Yankees again. He hits a homer off Goose Gossage. That was the Pine Tar game. All hell breaks loose. And 1985, he had one of his greatest seasons ever. And that was a year that the Royals... Everybody remembers the Royals were down. They lost the first 2 games at home in the World Series. They won Game 3 behind Danny Jackson, who pitched a masterpiece. And they go to Game 6, and actually or go to Game 7. They win that series after being down 3-1, and then they come out with the exact same scenario, lose the first two games at home in the World Series, and then come back and win the series in 7. And Brett was a huge part of that. And I think in the late 80s they moved him to first base to reduce his chances of an injury. And I mean, even in 1988, he's batting 306, 24 home runs, 104 RBIs. He was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1999 with close to 3,200 hits. And I know you've got a story about the Brett family also.
Yeah, I do, and that's amazing. And Mike, you got the Pine Tar game in there. You got, it's just he had what a career, and I'm glad you brought up Charlie Lau because that's a big part of. I know he credits Charlie Lau, tremendously for developing him as a hitter. And yeah, the Brett family, you mentioned them, Ken Brett, the brother, the famous brother who played in the major leagues, and he had two other brothers, and I think they were from El Segundo, California, or El Dorado, can't remember, but they're Southern California boys. And the family got into owning some minor league baseball teams, maybe 3 or 4 of them, and one of them was the Spokane Indians in the Northwest League. This was in 1987. They owned that team, and that was the short A rookie affiliate of the Padres back then. And the owner of that team was Bobby Brett and the Brett family, and I was on that team, Mike. So I was drafted that year by the Padres and went up to Spokane and got to meet those guys and see those guys. They'd come down to the clubhouse sometimes, at home game and talk to the players a little bit and definitely talk to the manager. And, they had an influence for sure. And Brett family, man, that was as big as you got in baseball back in those days. And,
and Brett and
really
Bobby, I didn't notice, but Brett and Bobby tried to buy the Royals in 1998 but got turned down.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Wow. I wasn't sure they had that kind of money to buy the Kansas
Maybe they
Royals,
didn't.
but
They got turned down. And Brett is the principal owner of the Tri-City Dust Devils, the single-A affiliate of the Padres right now. And him and his brother Bobby also own the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, an LA Dodgers single-A partner. And they lead ownership groups that control the Spokane Chiefs of the Western Hockey League and the High Desert Mavericks of the California League.
Wow, and you mentioned those California League teams, High Desert and Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. Both of those are within 30 minutes of me, especially the Quakes. That's probably 15 minutes from me, so I didn't realize that. I kind of fell out of the loop at who was owning those. And it's interesting. They're still up in Spokane doing the hockey, so they've got ties up there still, and they're still doing it. I mean, this is 87, so 97, 07. 32 years later, they're still involved, and I think that's great. What a family and what a player he was. And Mike, Ken Brett himself, didn't he? He was a pitcher. He was known being a great hitter, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a hell of a hitter. I mean, the whole family could hit. I mean, he could just pitch too. But didn't he throw a no-hitter?
Exactly.
I couldn't remember. I asked you last night, so I figured you looked it up by now.
Yeah, I think he did, Mike. I think he did throw a no-hitter. I can't remember, but it makes sense to me. I think I've heard that. Number 2, you've got Brett listed as number 2 behind Mike Schmidt. Is that correct? I think I read that on one of your posts.
But I think they're interchangeable, to tell you the truth.
They are. I mean, maybe Schmidt has a little bit of the edge just because of the power, right?
Yeah, the power, and I don't know. Schmidt was pretty good with the glove. They were both really good with the glove. I think Schmidt had a little bit more arm than Brett did.
Yeah, I think Brett's arm was average, and I can remember that fight you brought up like it was yesterday, sliding in and then just immediately, almost as soon as he popped up, just hitting each other's face and fighting, and both benches clearing, no ejections. That was baseball back then, 70s, 80s.
Well, and the thing about Ken Brett, though, was he was brought up to pitch in the World Series. And I don't even know if he'd ever pitched in the major leagues yet because he was brought up in '66. He was 19, but they needed an injury replacement for Sparky Lyle, who was on that Red Sox team, and he actually appeared in relief in Game 4, pitched a scoreless 8th inning, yielding a walk, and then in Game 7, He entered the game with the bases loaded in the top of the ninth and induced Tim McCarver to ground out to first base to end the inning. At 19 years and 3 weeks, he gave up no hits in 1 1/3 scoreless innings in 2 World Series appearances.
Wow. So he paved the way for his brother. Yeah, he was the first one that came through. And
he pitched from 1967 to 1981 in the major leagues.
Yeah, left-handed pitcher, correct?
I believe he was.
I'm almost positive he was left-handed. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff, Mike. Thank you for that. And George Brett. Yeah, I think I'd have to put him at number 2 also. I think you're right there.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I wouldn't argue if you had Brett at 1 and Schmidt at 2. I just think it's inarguable that at least in my lifetime, they're the 2 best third basemen I've ever seen.
Yeah. And, Mike, they call it shits and giggles. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression.
Yes, I have, because I was thinking of it when you started to say it. But go ahead. As soon as you said giggles. Just 4, I knew those 2 words were coming next.
All right. Well, where would you put Adrián Beltré? Do you penalize him for the steroid era, or does he fit up there in the top 5? I can't remember if you had him in your top 5.
I didn't even have him in my top 10, I don't think, because... it was after 1990, Bobby. I lost interest. If you played after 1990, I didn't care.
But if you went back because of his accomplishments, he's got a lot of numbers. But again, the
steroids, it destroys Bonds and it destroys McGuire. Why shouldn't it destroy Beltran?
Yeah, I know. It's just that I'm not sure what he was really found, even though it doesn't matter. We all know anyways, but I don't know if he was part of that Falco or part of any of that, every part of any of that stuff, but I know he was. I mean, that guy blew up, was huge, He came up a great prospect with the Dodgers. Really had what an arm he had. You talk about an arm. He outplayed both those guys at third base. I'm going to say that. So he's up there somewhere.
You mean defensively?
I mean defensively, yeah. He had a great arm.
Well, how about this? Did he outplay Brooks Robinson?
No, I would say no. He probably did not play Brooks Robinson, but yeah, he's probably the best defensive third baseman in this era now.
How about this? Retired, I think Scott Rowland was. Just strictly defense.
Oh, wow. That's another great name you brought up. Yeah, he was fantastic.
And Rowland is a guy that doesn't get near as much credit as he should.
Yeah, I agree, because he also had a lot of power. He hit a lot of home runs. Did he hit 300 home runs in his career?
Rowland, he was right around it. I mean, Beltré hit 477, 3,166 hits. See, this is the thing. Beltré, is he still playing or did he retire last year?
Finally retired, yeah.
Okay, so he wasn't eligible to be on my list because I only went with guys that were retired, and I originally wrote the list in 2016.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't consider him because of that. It wasn't because of the steroids.
Oh, okay. Well, what would be fun is to kind of go back over a few of those lists that I see pop up every once in a while that you'll post from, that you've written, and maybe fun to go over a couple of those and see where adds and deletes might come. I think he'd be an ad somewhere in there now that he's retired.
He would be top 10, just numbers alone. Now, if you keep him out because of the steroids, you got to look, see what he got busted for, stuff like that. But
right.
Yeah, if you're just going to 10 best of all time, he would be in there. Because that's why I was wondering why I didn't have him in my top 10, and then I realized that he just retired.
Yeah.
So,
let's put the official Grueling Truth 3-teamer out there. Let's use your Blues at plus 110. Let's use my Tigers, which is plus 143, and then let's throw one of those 3 from the 3-team mix and match. And why not the late game, the D-backs with Robbie Ray? Let's make that the official Grueling Truth 3-team parlay.
All right. Sounds good, Bobby.
That's got to pay pretty good, Mike.
Hey, is the Preakness this week?
Yeah, Preakness this week. We got to set something up with Phil and Vince.
Yeah, we can do that.
And
Because I like to
see
get
if we
Phil
can
and
get,
Vince's opinions on disqualification in the Kentucky Derby anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. Talking about Phil, real quick, the handicappingguide.com, he's got a nice payoff highlight from yesterday at Santa Anita Race 6, a $1 trifecta wager, which would cost $21, paid $442 yesterday at Santa Anita using just his top three.
Yeah.
So he's got examples like that every day. So if you like horse racing and there's a certain track you like, I'm sure he's got it covered. He covers 4 to 6 tracks a day, and Santa Anita is our local one here now that's running, but they're everywhere, you know, Florida, Kentucky, New York, and it's a nice, gives you the top 7 in each race by ranking order of numbers. You can find him at thehandicappingguide.com or on thegruelingtruth.com. Go
halfway down on the right side of the page.
GHG.
All right, guys.
We'll be talking to those guys, and I'll look forward to that. Wow, round 2 with Vince. If we can get him on again, that's must listen.
And remember, the Sheridan Report, you can follow at Sheridan Report on Twitter. You can get it at SheridanReport.com. $10 a day, $50 a month, or $5 for the top play of the day, or the best play of the day. Correct, Bobby?
Best bet of the day. Best bet of the day. And if you click that button right now, it shows Detroit Tigers.
All right. Well, now they don't have to click it and pay you $5. You already told them.
That's right.
All right. Well, there you go. So now you have to come listen tomorrow, too, since Bobby gave you a free one. All right. We will be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock with Bobby Sheridan and Sheridan Report. Noon tomorrow with Thrive in Advance with me and Steve Risley. Inside Boxing Daily tonight at 11 o'clock Eastern Time live. So make sure you check that out also. We're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. I want to remind you can hear everything on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, Stitcher, Zeno Live Radio. Wherever you find sports podcast, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.